Oh, thank you for your introduction. And good morning, everybody. I am Kumie Inose, Vice President of Science Council of Japan and professor at Kona University located in Kobe, Japan. First of all, it is a great honor for me to speak here at the World Humanities Conference, and I would like to express my deep gratitude to the organizers of the conference, UNESCO, SHIPS, the Liège Foundation for the World Humanities Conference, and other affiliating institutions for giving me such a great opportunity to deliver my keynote speech at this time. I also thank you all for coming today. I am myself a historian specializing in modern British history as introduced now. And through my research, especially on the rapid militarization of British society just before and after the South African War to outbreak of the First World War, roughly 100 years ago, I have continuously been asking what the imperial past means to the present society, sometimes in comparison with and sometimes overlapping with the Japanese imperial past, being considering its influence on the future generation. In addition to my academic specialty, as was introduced, I have been engaged in a wide range of issues as a council member of Science Council of Japan, and especially as the vice president since the autumn 2014. One of my interests is in gender equality, and in May this year, Gender Summit was held in Tokyo for the first time in Japan, Gender Summit 10. I was its co-chair with a representative of Japan Science and Technology Agency, whose specialty is physics. So physics and history is its very good harmony and balance, isn't it? And other issues I have been engaged are national security, research integrity, and recognition of history, history education, bridging between secondary and higher education, and above all, issues deeply related to the humanities and social sciences. And as a member of CFRS, the Committee on Freedom and Responsibility in the Conduct of Science, one of the three main committees of the International Council for Science, ICS, I am deeply concerned with the issues of human rights of the scientists, scholars, and researchers who are in need of some action from the international academic community. Given the current situation of instability through the world, and with increasingly academic fluidity, it is difficult to follow the principle of universality of science without intervening in the internal affair of the countries concerned. Most CFRS members are natural and life scientists, and there are very few in the field of humanities, so the discussion at CFRS meetings twice a year always makes me think about the role of humanities and social sciences in the world which has become more violent for citizens and researchers alike, despite the fact that the world needs more scientific and academic cooperation and exchanges in order to solve the problems we face. In this respect, I hope the merger of ICS and ISSC, International Social Science Council, will be fruitful for the future of the humanities as well. Today, I will share with you the situation surrounding humanities and social sciences, hereafter HSS for short, in Japan recently, based on my experiences at Science Council of Japan SCJ in short. The reason is, at least to me, very clear. In Japan, during the term of my office, between 2014 and 2017, up to now, it seems easier for both Tang and Gang to see the humanities and social sciences, especially humanities in general, are under threat. Two issues eloquently tell us about the role of HSS. One is a notice issued on June the 8th, 2015, 2 years ago, by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. We call MEXT in short, to all national universities, now 86 in number. We call it 6-8 notice, as you see in this slide. This ministerial notice, entitled A Review of the Organization and Operations of the National Universities and Other Higher Educational Institutions, instructs in particular those undergraduate department and graduate schools which are responsible for teacher training and for education in humanities and social sciences. The notice asks universities to make every effort to draw up an organizational restructuring plan in the light of the decrease in the university age population and demand for human resources, the quality control of research and teaching institutions, and function of national universities. The notice then goes on to request taking up active steps to abolish organizations or to convert them to serve areas that better meet society's needs. This ministerial notice was reported by a variety of media, national and international, with such headlines as "Humanities Under Attack," "Japan dumps down its universities," "Social sciences and humanities faculties to close in Japan after ministerial intervention," etc., etc. Some of you might remember this. This notice itself was not intended to close off humanities faculties, but to reconstruct them to meet society's needs. But the word abolish was enough to provoke the media, newspapers, and SNS alike to transmit what is going on and, in that sense, to create public opinion against it. So, we should be careful about how we interpret this 6-8 notice. I called attention to the same point as the CFRS meeting in October 2015, held in Paris, where this case was taken up as other businesses, as this slide shows. We will come back to this point later. And the black letters, black letter means the agenda, and the red, little red is from the report of CFRS after the end of the meeting. One more issue I will pick up today is the discussion regarding a research funding program called National Security Technology Research Promotion by a newly built external bureau of the Ministry of Defense, the Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics Agency, ATLA, in the fiscal year of 2015. 2015 is very memorable year for me, not for me, for almost everybody in Japan. I don't think it is a coincidence that the decision to set up ATLA by revision of the Defense Agency Establishment Act in the Japanese Diet is dated on June the 10th in 2015, just 2 days after 6-8 notice. we should be conscious of the time order. History tells a lot of things behind the scenes. In fact, these two issues are closely related with each other and tell us the important role the HSS plays. In this funding program, research proposals are invited and reviewed with a clear objective of awarding prospective projects, which are likely to produce results useful to the future development of defense equipment. In addition, officials of the ATRA, not outside experts, but officials of ATRA, administrates ongoing research and their process during funding periods. So from the standpoint of sound development of sciences, this funding program has many problems during funding period. Moreover, much social attention has been paid to the budget of this program. 300 million yen in 2015, you can see your left-hand side, 600 million in 2016, then 11,000 million in 2017 this year. This is in sharp contrast to the governmental management expenses granted to national universities, which has been cut every year since 2004. Both issues caused a huge controversy among academics, and these two drew lots of attention in Japanese society as well, and discussions are still underway on both cases. In Japan, like other countries, since the middle of 1990s until today, many governmental policies have been based on so-called neoliberalism, which emphasizes the visibility and profitability of academic results in response to the needs of industry and business. Global academic ranking is thought to be an effective index with which to get more money and more students, and in turn, more profit. In that situation, the humanities have been under pressure to reform themselves, cutting both budgets and curriculums in higher education. This reminds me of the very famous beginning of Anna Karenina by a great Russian novelist, Leo Tolstoy. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, but in a very opposite way. And it seems to me that looking around us and having just a glance at newspaper headlines, this situation leads us to the same unhappy ending. A world with a lack of dialogue, no respect for others, full of violence of many kinds. But paying my homage to the great novelist, let me look more closely at how unhappy the humanities in Japan is. What can the contemporary Japanese experience tell the world about the future of humanities? What can we do if unhappy families are all alike? If we are all in this unhappy situation, we should try together to look for clues as to how to get out of it. And I heartily wish that our Japanese experience can be food for thought for the humanities in a changing world. Before talking about the main issue today, it might be a good idea to explain very briefly about the Science Council of Japan, SCJ. SCJ is an organization broadly representing the scientific community in Japan, ranging over all fields of sciences, subsuming humanities, social sciences, life sciences, natural sciences, and engineering, etc. The SAG was established in January 1949, at the same time when SHIPS was founded at the request of UNESCO. It's a very interesting thing, interesting fact. And SCJ was established in the process of democratization of academics after the Second World War as a special organization under the jurisdiction of Prime Minister. It operates independently of the government for the purpose of promoting and enhancing the field of science and having science reflected in and permitted into administration, industries, and people's lives. The SCJ considers of 210 council members. The number has not been changed since its establishment. Since 2005, some 2,000 members have been also elected besides council members as also representatives of the approximately 840,000 scientists nationwide. From the very beginning of 1949, the humanities and social science and the science are SCJ's official section. Now, the first section of it, so in this respect, SCJ is a very unique national academy in the world. For our activities, such as issuing recommendations and advice to the government in the process of policy making, from a universal perspective and a comprehensive and multifaceted point of view, SCJ has been proud of taking advantage of this uniqueness, as you may recognize at the end of my talk. When I was asked to give a keynote speech in this session, I was in the midst of making two important statements with the committee member of SCJ. One is the reply to 6.8 notice, that is, how Humanities and Social Sciences, HSS, contributes to the comprehensive development of science in Japan and the world. Our recommendation was issued not on June the 8th, but on June the 1st, after it was handed over to the head of department of the higher education of the mixed Ministry of Education and Science, Sports and Technology in the middle of May this year. Until then, the Executive Committee of SCJ twice issued a statement, both in Japanese and in English, in which we expressed our profound concern over the potentially grave impact that such an administrative notice implies for the future of HSS in Japan and the very idea of the university itself, irrespective of whether it is private or public funded. Also, the HSS section of SCJ, the first section, established a special committee for making our reply to keep dialogue between the mixed and held symposium open to the public entitled HSS, Humanities and Social Science, and the Future of Universities in 3 successive years. This photo is the first one on July 31, 2015, at the main hall of SCJ, which were full of variety of audiences, academics, university staffs, businessmen, general ordinary citizens, as well as university students and postgraduate students. The title itself tells us that HSS is at the center of the concept of university, whose origin lies in medieval Europe, and so to ask why HSS, Humanities and Social Sciences, is necessary at universities is equal to asking what is university. The question, why HSS now, is directly linked to what is university now in an age in which higher education is nearly universal in many developed countries. And most of the PhD students in the field of HSS mainly seek positions in universities, unlike the PhD students in the field of life sciences and natural sciences. Based on this discussion, our recommendation directly takes up the numerous issues faced by Japanese academics in general, and the urgent issues to be dealt with while exploring the issues and role that HSS should play in the promotion of academic research in total. An English version will be released soon, so please visit our homepage. In considering that most of the reforms in humanities and social science education so far have frequently proceeded in conjunction with liberal arts education reform, and reconfirming by our existence in the Great East Japan earthquake and nuclear accident in Fukushima in March 11, 2011, that a comprehensive view of academic research is indispensable for the control of science and technology. Our recommendation released on June the 1st this year emphasizes 5 points, among which I would like to stress 2 things here. One is the reconstruction of the evaluation criteria for HSS research. As this diagram of this slide shows, lots of publications were and are on HSS, but the criteria is so different from those of many fields in natural science. HSS is slow science, and it is necessary to establish evaluation indicators that reflect the characteristics of the field. This gathered most of media attention, but it is difficult to immediately reply. It's very difficult, of course. Another is the establishment of a comprehensive academic science policy. In Japan, there is no comprehensive national policy that takes into account the whole of academic science, including the humanities and social sciences. The 6-8 notice was originally expected to influence the 5th Science and Technology Basic Plan. It began in April last year, 2016, until March 2021. That's the 5th Science and Technology Basic Plan. And from this basic plan, humanities and social sciences are clearly excluded since the plan was put into effect in 1996. SCJ has been insisting that the humanities and social sciences must work together with natural sciences to deal with the problems confronting mankind, but our insistence has not fulfilled yet. Another statement I have tackled is a reply to the funding program by ATRA. The statement on research for military security, which was agreed by the Executive Board on March 24th and presented to the General Annual Assembly on April 14 this year. Before its publication, we held a symposium and presented the outline of the statement we are still making on February this year in the main hall of SCJ, which was so popular also again that the hall was filled to over capacity. You can see the photos. The statement against military research drew wide attention in Japanese society, not only from academics, but also from general citizens and media. I am myself deeply involved in making of this statement as a member of Special Committee on National Security and Academics. And during that discussion, I fully recognize the essential role played by HSS for world peace and for academic freedom. As I already mentioned, SCJ is a product of academic democratization after the Second World War. And in this difficult process, it was humanities and social sciences that played a vital role. It is a timeline of the SCJ and the statement against military research. The statement on its commitment to never become engaged in scientific research for war purpose, issued in 1950, the year following its establishment, and the second statement to confirm this principle in 1967 were typical examples. Since then, this scientific ethics has been the essence of SCJ, and the contribution of HSS section were clearly in the minutes and the stenographic records, as I showed you later. In this respect, it is not by chance that the chairman of the Special Committee for our discussion is Chief Director of the first section, that is HSS section, whose specialty is political science. To make my point much clearer, we return to the story of 6-8 notice again. This notice, which requires all national universities to undergo institutional reform in order to meet society's needs, is in line with university reforms since the 1990s, encouraging certain kinds of qualifications and skills for students in response to the needs of industry and business. This kind of effort is believed to improve the quality of universities, which in turn is reflected in the global academic ranking, as I told you. In fact, the very same messages were open to the public a year before 6-8 notice, that is, August 2014, in the Evaluation Committee for the National Universities in MEXT. But at that time, it gathered little attention among academic persons and media. This is very curious. Why did the same passages cause, surprisingly, a huge reaction in June 2015, not a year ago? Why was this notice so controversial in the early summer of 2015, not only among the national universities which were the target of that notice, but also among much wider citizens in Japanese society as well as private universities? The student ratio of national university is, you can see the pink one on your left-hand side, is, as you see in the slide, is about 17% of all university students, and among them the student in the field of humanities and social sciences. That's the diagram, and the right-hand side, the pink one, and the national universities at the top one, is just 22%. Why was it so problematic in Japanese society at that time? Several reasons are not too difficult to imagine from the experience in SCJ. In the evening, on the same day as our first symposium responding to 6-8 notice on July 31st, 2015, which I already referred to, the Association of Scholars Opposed to the Security-Related Laws planned to have a big meeting and a demonstration in front of the Japanese Diet. The laws meant to enable the self-defense forces to fight overseas for the future for the first time since the end of the Second World War. I do not have enough time to explain this in detail, but I can tell you that many of the participants of our symposium joined that meeting and demonstration as well after the end of our symposium. It is an interesting phenomenon if we consider that most scholars who joined our symposium, like those who joined this scholarly association, had until then, consciously tried to avoid political commitment, especially after the student struggles had failed in the 1960s. In the summer of 2015, the Association of Scholars emphasizes as follows. 70 years have passed since the end of the Second World War. Now, Japan stands at a critical juncture. One path is that a nation that does not wage war, the other a nation that wage war. We bear a special historical burden in that universities collaborated with Japan's war and sent numerous students off to battle. So we clearly declared a strong opposition to the path to the war. That is the message of this association. Several leaders of the association are now in their 60s and 70s and were once themselves committed to movement to stop wars in the 1960s and 1970s, as some of you might remember. They collaborated with a representative of organization of the younger generation, SEALs. SEALs means Students Emergency Action for Liberal Democracy. SEALs, established in May 2015, whose members are mostly in their 20s and university students. And that scholars enjoy dialogues between the younger generation. As you can see in this slide, this gentleman is former president of SCJ, Professor Seigo Hirowatari, specialist of comparative law. And that person next to Professor Hirowatari was the former chief director of the first section, Professor Manabu Sato, a specialist in pedagogy, both professor of Tokyo University. And that HSS section and these young people are members of the SEALs, all universities. That photos shows all university students from all over Japan, including high school students as well. And thus, these experiences in the summer of 2015 teach us that the issue regarding HSS, including its essential question of what HSS, humanities, social sciences, gives to society, especially to the younger generation, should be openly discussed in the society we live in. If we really want to change our situation, the HSS situation, which seemed to have made very few changes since 1990s. To do so, academics in the field of humanities, social sciences should make even greater efforts to link our own issues to the world we live in. We should especially try to involve the younger generation who will live in the future that is created by policies in the present. When we expose ourselves in society, we must rethink an important idea, academic freedom. Since the issue of 6/8 notice in 2015, many newspaper articles and articles in academic journals and general journals as well have been published and are still being published. So many, so this is just an example. The special issues of the contemporary ideas, November in 2015, and again October in 2016. These two in the center of the slide was devoted to HSS issues. Moreover, various symposiums and forums have been held during these 2 years. One of the focal points is academic freedom. And this is also the very point on which our statement against scientific research for military purposes stands. Our statement reads as follows. In recent years, the distance between scientific research and military endeavors has been narrowing again. Therefore, by recognizing the tension between two sides, namely academic freedom and the sound development of the sciences on one side, and research for national security, employing military measures, in other words, research for military security conducted at universities and research institutions on the other, we affirm the previous 2 statements. This is the first several lines of our statement. Honestly speaking, the academic freedom we stand on against military research at universities is, in a sense, a compromise among the committee members, as some newspapers and news commentaries have pointed out. This slide is from a news commentary of NHK, National Broadcasting Corporation in Japan, just after the issue of our statement. In our discussion, while drafting the 3rd statement, scientists in the field of technology and civil engineering repeatedly tried to make a clear distinction between defensive situation in which military research is permitted and offensive ones which is not. But from the perspective of HSS, Humanities and Social Sciences academics, such a distinction is fundamentally useless. Technology itself is always dual use. An umbrella, you used yesterday and today maybe, an umbrella is normally used to keep out rain, but it might be used to attack somebody. It is useless and impossible to make a clear distinction between the defensive and the offensive. History teaches us that almost all conflicts begin under the cause of defense. In Article 23 of Japanese Constitution, the following is written: academic freedom is guaranteed. Just forward, academic freedom is guaranteed. Academic freedom is described in its own sentence separately from other freedoms. Freedom of thought and conscience shall not be violated in Article 19, and freedom of assembly and association, as well as speech, press, and all other forms of expression are guaranteed in Article 21. This reflects the tension between academic and the political powers before and during the Second World War, though its original meaning might have sunk into oblivion during the latter part of the 20th century, I'm afraid. During the course of the discussion in the Committee on National Security and Academics, I had been reading all the minutes of the General Assembly of SCJ in 1950s and 1960s, between the first statement and the second one, against war-oriented scientific research. The minutes and its stenographic records clearly show the role of council members in the field of humanities and social sciences in stopping wars. That is the reason why I have felt déjà vu during the course of the discussion in 2016 and early this year. The strange feeling teaches me that the tension between scientific research and military endeavor might be similar to those days of the previous two statements, especially when the first one was written. Remember that just 2 months after the first statement was issued, the Korean War began in June 1950, and this war has still not officially ended and remains a cause of the instability of East Asia and the world as well now. To my surprise, I have found that under this severe tension in the early 1950s, even among the council members of the SCJ, Article 9 of our Constitution, a crowd outlawing war as a means to settle international disputes involving state had already been one of the most controversial points among scholars and scientists. The situation has changed very little in 2016 and 2017. As I already mentioned, it is very easy to find similar remarks in the minutes of the General Assemblies in the 1950s and 1960s. Human beings have not been so clever to change themselves in so short a time. I will tell you one more important fact in the history of SCJ. It is that the main place for the discussion of the two statements against scientific research for military purpose was the Committee on Academic Freedom and Freedom of Thought, which was established in the founding year of 1949. It was proposed by Professor Goro Hani of Tokyo University, specialist of historical philosopher, who was one of the key council members to establish SCJ, historian, and later became a member of parliament. With his experience of being jailed due to his liberalism before and during the Second World War, he strongly insisted on protecting academic freedom as the chairman of that committee, and collaborated with leaders of the other academic associations outside SCJ. At that time, a certain international appeal had a strong and very impressive influence on Japanese academics. That is a statement by 8 distinguished social scientists on the cause of the tension affecting international understanding, issued in July 1948. These 8 social scientists were brought together by UNESCO following the second meeting of the UNESCO General Assembly in 1947. Just a brief look at this slide. Letters in red are international affairs, and blue letters are Japanese reaction to them. Supporting this statement, the Colloquium for Peace Issues was established and published the Statement of Japanese Scientists Concerning War and Peace in the middle of January 1949. About 10 days later, SCJ was established and issued the Resolution for Peace and Science at the first General Founding Assembly. I do not have to get into details, but a new and unique academic organization, the Science Council of Japan, was not only in close relation to scholars and scientists in the field of HSS in all over Japan, but also in close ties with the international network like UNESCO. That is the reason why SCJ acquired a wide support from those who strongly wished for peace and freedom, both academics and non-academics alike. So it is not a coincidence that the ship was founded at the request of UNESCO almost the same time, as I said. I believe that the foundation of the two organizations, in a sense, were challenged against the world full of violence and divided under the name of Cold War. From the document, the Committee on Academic Freedom and Freedom of Thought had been active until the end of the 20th century, but has now curiously disappeared. I suppose one of the reasons is that the meaning of academic freedom has changed in accordance with the rise of neoliberalism since the 1990s into a focus on scientist ethics to prevent research misconduct. In summing up, what we must learn from the SCJ's past and present, together with my own experience during my time in office, is two things. One is that it is time to remember and reconsider the idea of academic freedom in our contemporary world. Another is that we must make an effort to open academic freedom as well towards society outside academic institutions. In this respect, it is us scholars in the field of humanities and social sciences who hold the key. Please let me say one more thing. It is essentially important to keep records and store them for a certain period so that they will be available to successive generations. Nowadays in Japan, however, I am afraid that this basic rule is not observed even by civil servants in governmental bodies. As a historian, I feel very unhappy and very depressed to hear government offices say like this: there are no records at all. It all depends on my memory. So, as to your question, negative, nothing happened. I am not joking, but this really happened in a recent open hearing in the Japanese Diet. I'm so sad at the time. To prevent this kind of shameful occurrence and to keep a dialogue open between us and policymakers like those in MEXT, we must pay more attention to link humanities and social sciences to our society, both in and out of universities. This may be the key to opening the future of humanities and social sciences in this changing world, even if the world is full of violence and divisions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Inose, for this wonderful, inspiring, but in some respect also terrifying lecture, which I had some echoes with my own presentation, my keynote address that you developed, but illustrated, but with far more details. Some points I only slightly touched upon in my conference. So key note or key words in your lecture, in my opinion, were the role of universities, which is very important, the role of humanities in keeping peace, and academic freedom are also very important. So we have a very limited amount of time for comments or questions, but it's up to you. If you're interested in having some comments, just please raise your hands. We have time for 1 or 2 questions.
You have something.
Poser des questions, soit des commentaires. Nous avons peu de temps parce que nous devons respecter le timing, comme vous le savez, mais nous avons un peu de temps quand même.
Yes, time is limited. Okay.
Ah, mon micro ne va pas. Il semble que le micro, voilà, c'est beaucoup mieux ainsi. Donc il y a un commentaire ici.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for a wonderful address.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
I lived in Japan many years ago, 1967, and I had not realized in recent years what is happening.
Yes.
So thank you. I wonder if also this movement is related to a job crisis, because I think in many countries there's an attitude that young people can only find jobs if they're in technology and science. Is it also a factor?
Yes. Yes, okay. Yes, the same thing happened in Japan, and we are in our statement. We are recommendations to be. We insisted that the number of the job in the post in the universities must be increased. Yes, that situation is the same. So I'd like to teach from Japanese to the Japanese case. We will teach you all something, but something a bit. Thank you very much for your question. Thank you.
Another question of comments, yeah, in the middle row. Thank you.
Je vous remercie, Madame, pour l'explicitation de ce combat, mais qui est...
Just a moment. Okay, now.
Voilà, je voulais peut-être revenir sur quelque chose qui a quand même traversé tout ce colloque, c'est l'idée de la marchandisation, en fait, de l'université. Et j'avais cru comprendre à un moment donné que ce qui était, par exemple, sciences plus approche scolaire, plus technique, était plus centré sur l'opérationnel et que c'était normal. Mais moi, je dirais que ce n'est pas normal. Car à l'heure actuelle, il faut aussi savoir que le travail social et le travail dans les sciences humaines, y compris pour ces gens qu'on dit opérationnels, est profondément marchandisé également. Et donc là aussi, il y a un véritable danger. Et je crois que l'université et le non-universitaire et la société en général doivent en fait se concerter et travailler ensemble pour que la société prenne une autre direction. Parce que la pensée unique néolibérale est réellement met en risque en fait toute une série d'institutions universitaires, les sciences au sens du savant et érudit, mais aussi les gens qui travaillent avec des repères épistémologiques, éthiques et méthodologiques très puissants, y compris dans le travail social et de terrain, qui est lui-même très gravement en danger.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for your comments, and yes, I totally agree with you. So I said that the academic freedom, as well as academic information, knowledge, and everything, we must open to the society to link together and to work against such kind of world. Thank you very much for your comment. Yes, social work as well.
A last question of comment? No? So, thank you once more, please.